My name is Scott Lancaster, and I'm one of the research and instruction librarians here at Waters Library. And I've been here a little over 20 years. I have a doctorate in English from the department here. So I've taught the 1301 and 1302 for a couple of years. So I'm familiar with somewhat with the assignments that you're doing, and I'm available to help, as well as there's other librarians here that will be able to help you with your research. A lot of what we do now will be on through Zoom like this. Even our classroom instruction is through Zoom. What I'm going to do now is share my screen, and I want to show you some images just so I don't, some of you might not have come to the library building before. Can you see the screen that says library research? So, we have a physical library, and when I first started here, you couldn't really do anything with research without coming here to the library building. But now, we're for the last 10 years, we've been transitioning more and more to online resources as we get rid of print resources that we don't need anymore. They're replaced with electronic resources. And but the library is still here to be used if you need a place to study, if you have a question you want to ask someone face to face, or if you need a print book, because we still do have some print books. Whether you get a print book or whether you're going to get an electronic resource, you're going to start with the computer, because I don't know if any of you all know about card catalogs. It used to be physical cards that identified material that was in the library. We don't have that anymore. Most libraries don't. And you're going to go to an electronic card catalog. And so you're going to start either on your own computer device or even a phone or one of the desktop computers that we have on the first or second floor. We have two, what we call kick scanners, that you can scan books or documents. I've even scanned photographs before. It's really easy to use. You can see it's a flatbed scanner. It scans from above, so you can just turn the pages and push the button, and it can save as a PDF document. It can save as a JPEG or other image. It can even save as an audio file if you've scanned a text document. And you can either upload those to the cloud, email them to yourself, or what I always like to do is use a flash drive to save it, but you've got any of those options. We have multiple study rooms throughout the library, and those are very popular. I'll show you in a minute where you can reserve those rooms. There are individual study rooms like the one pictured here. I guess two people who didn't mind being very cozy could squeeze in there, but it's meant for one person. And we have rooms up to, I think, that would fit 12 or 15 people, and they will have whiteboards in them. The bigger rooms have projectors that you can attach a laptop to and project something onto a screen. And you reserve those online, and then you come to the front desk and get a key when you're ready to use the room. So just to quickly go over some basics in research, you may already be familiar with this. You're going to start out with some idea for an assignment, or just something you're curious about, something you've been told to research. You're going to have a topic or a subject. The narrower you can get it, the better, because you can then find very targeted results. So a lot of the strategies that we work with you about is taking a broad topic or subject and narrowing it down. For instance, if someone came in and said, I want to find articles about pollution, Well, first we would have a discussion about there's many different types of pollution, but and then they may say, oh well, air pollution, and then even further narrowing it down, well, it's the causes of air pollution, and then narrowing it down even further to a specific cause, the effects of aerosol products on air pollution. So we've got a very narrow topic here, and that'll be, like if you're in a psychology class or you're in a history class, you may have a very broad topic that that's what my project is supposed to be about, but you're going to have to narrow it down somehow. I don't like to suggest to people what to narrow it down to, but I might ask them, whether you discuss in class or let's look at your textbook at the table of contents, just something to sort of get them an idea about what they're interested in. Because if you pick something you're interested in, you're going to do better at it, than if you really so you really have to develop kind of a curiosity about research to be effective and to not be, to make it like somewhat interesting and enjoyable for you. These are just some examples of search queries that someone might have. Librarians often like to tell people, form your query, make it in the form of a question. However, then what you take to the search engine is not going to be that question, but you start out with a question like, how has global warming affected cattle farming? Or how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected homelessness? Or how were African Americans in Texas participating in the US Civil War? So these are examples of queries. I get a lot of things lately with COVID-19, especially education related things, because we have a lot of education researchers in the graduate programs, and they're all looking now, or many of them are looking at how has the pandemic affected various aspects of education. So taking these queries, like I said, what you take to the search, to the database are the keywords, just the main words that usually do not include prepositions unless it's a unique phrase like no child left behind, which is a government or an act of Congress, I think. But generally you just take the main words and you join them together with Boolean operators. In this case, I've got global warming and cattle and farming, COVID-19 and homelessness, or African Americans and Civil War in Texas. And you need to sort of keep in mind from the beginning that you may have to use other terms because, maybe you're thinking global warming, but, the database may be having the term climate change or greenhouse effect or something. Even cattle could be livestock or specific types of cattle like or of livestock like goats or something. And then with any kind of ethnic term like African Americans, there's going to be multiple ways of terming it. And those terms fall in and out of acceptable use, become more popular or less popular. But if you're doing historic research, you need to sort of understand the different terms. I often use Wikipedia just to brainstorm different ideas about how something's going to be called. Like if I can kind of, off the top of my head, think of what different ways global warming is called. But if I look at the Wikipedia article, I can sort of jot down the different terms like climate change or something. And the three main Boolean operators that you're going to use, and, or, and not, and using these Venn diagrams, it shows you what they do. When you put two terms together with and, you make your results smaller. So you're only getting the results shaded in blue here. one circle is everything in the database that has the word psychotherapy in it, whether it's in the title or the description of the thing. It could even be in the name of the journal. And then the other circle, everything that has eating disorder. And when we do the searches, and I'll show you about phrase searching, but notice I've got quotation marks around this, because when it's a specific phrase and you want it, those 2 or more words in that exact order, you put them in quotation marks. It's very useful, especially when you've got common words like eating and disorder that each means something in their own use. But when you put them together, they mean something very specific. And so you put those in quotation marks. And then you're getting just the results that have both terms in it. When you put things together with or, you are making your results smaller, and you're getting you're getting both the things that have social isolation in them, as well as the things that have loneliness in them, and including the things that have both terms in the record. Because any of the articles or books or whatever you're finding in the database is going to have metadata that will include the title, the author, the journal, the publication information, and an abstract. And so you're searching for all of these things. You're searching in all of those fields when you're putting these keywords in. I don't use not as often. And in fact, I usually don't, but I don't even use it from the beginning. After I do a search, like if I did a search on eating disorder in a database, and I was really interested in anorexia, but I didn't want to, for some reason, use that term. But I find, I've got all these results that are about bulimia. Then you can go back and edit your search and put not bulimia, and then you're only pulling in the things that do not have that term in it. And you can have multiple layers of searching that will do complicated, that will throw out several nets, like children, pandemic, and mental health, so you're doing actually 3 searches, but then you're only wanting the results that have all 3 of those things in it. So the more terms you add when you have them joined by the word and, the smaller your results are going to be, which is a good thing when you get results. But sometimes you've made your search so specific that you don't get anything, or you get too few. And we might see how to deal with that. You might have learned about types of sources, or you'll certainly at some point be told, use primary sources for this research project. So just a little bit about the 3 types of sources. A primary source is an immediate firsthand account of a topic. It could be a document in history like the Declaration of Independence or a contract. It could, if you're doing a literary study, like you're writing about Hamlet by William Shakespeare, then the actual text of Hamlet is the primary source for your research. It could be survey data if you've collected it, or someone else collected data and you're using that data for your project. Or it could be reports of original research, which you're going to find in journals. Journals will publish articles where people have said, I did research on this, I collected data, and this is what I found. And that would be a primary source that can be used when they are reporting about something they actually did, and not saying, I read about somebody else's research. It could also be newspaper articles if they are reporting about it, and they were there. It was a reporter who was on the scene of an event or something. If you go back and you want primary sources about the Civil War, you could find those in newspapers as long, as it was like an interview with somebody who was in the battle, or a journalist who was actually on the site and was there. That's a primary source. Secondary sources are books, articles, or reports that are based on primary sources, such as peer-reviewed articles and scholarly books. So these are going to take the material that is in a secondary or primary source and discuss it and maybe compare to each other and make some kind of observation about that or conclusion. And then finally, tertiary, and you will use both primary sources and secondary sources in your research. Tertiary sources, you will be less likely to use in your, at least as a cited source in your research, but it's certainly good to use to get background on. It will be a synthesis of the secondary sources that are meant for the general reader, like a textbook in your class, or an encyclopedia, or even a mass market publication, like a newspaper or a popular magazine. You'll find many times popular magazines will have an article about some study that was, some scientific study that was done, or a social study that was done. And they are really sort of just breaking it down for the general reader. And these are helpful, in my opinion, in the same way I think Wikipedia can be helpful in just getting background information about a topic, where kind of generally what the thing is about. I think one of the last things to talk about, you will also be told, use peer-reviewed material, use peer-reviewed articles. It's pretty easy to narrow down your search results to peer-reviewed journals. And just so you understand what a peer review is, it's not unlike what happens when you go to the Writing Center, and I guess now it's online, the Writing Center is online, but someone reads your writing and gives you feedback about it. That's a form of peer review. With academic scholarly peer review, the scholar has an idea and writes about it, and they send their paper to a journal that they find a journal that focuses on whatever their interest is, history or psychology, and then it is reviewed by 3 or more so-called experts in the field that will evaluate it not only for how well it's written, but also for how accurate the results are being reported, and even like whether it is something worth researching and worth having in an academic, in the academic discussion about whatever the field is. And they will, it can go back and forth. They might send it back to the writer and say, we don't really think that this is good for us now to publish. Or they might send it back and say, we really like this, but these things need, these are some things you might want to, that you need to change before we can publish it. And it can go back and forth in that type of review process until hopefully, from the writer's point of view, it gets published, which is like you getting an A on a paper. You go for your peer review and you work on it with the reviewer because you want to get a good grade on the thing. And these people that are writing peer-reviewed articles probably are required to publish for their job requirement. So they need to get the thing published. When we search on the library homepage, there are two main ways you can search. There's the catalog, which again is like the card catalog. That is the material that is specifically selected by the librarians here to be in our collection. In the same way we used to just buy print books or get subscriptions to print journals. Now, more often than not, we are finding electronic books or getting access to databases that have electronic articles in them. So that you're searching in our own unique collection, or you are searching in a database, which we've got over 300 databases now. And these will, some of these are subject specific, some are format specific, either audio or video or print. And then some are newspapers, some are magazines. And then we also have what I've referred to as OneSearch, which is a federated search. It searches in as many of the databases as will work, where the technology will sort of interface with the search, and it's most of them at this point, and the library catalog. So you're really searching in everything that we have access to when you do a federated search. And I'll show you how to do that. I think we went over that. This is what OneSearch looks like. Oh, and I do want to point out, if you're not familiar with, we have two online tutorials that are in D2L, and we have a beginning and an advanced, and you should all have this on your in your D2L. I don't know whether I pinned them, so that at the top of my list, I don't know where you're going to find them on yours, but they should be there. Look for library instruction to academic research or advanced research tutorial. And you'll get a lot of information in those. And these are just some things I want to now show you that are on the home page. While I'm going to the homepage, are there any questions that you might have at this point? Okay, well, now I'm going to go to the array. Okay. So this is OneSearch. If you're not familiar with the URL for the library, it's you just put /library at the end of the URL for the university, tamuc.edu/library. I think there's a link to it that you'll see in D2L, and you'll find a link on the university homepage as well. The components of the page, I want to point out Ask a Librarian. If you have a question, you can email me directly or any other librarian. But if you don't really care who answers the question, you can click on Ask a Librarian, and it will go to this little interface. You can put your question in here. It can be as long as you want, even though you just see one line here. It can have as many as you want. And fill in the other information and then click Submit Your Question. We will get back to you. If it's between 8 and 5, it should be within a couple of hours or less than that you get an answer. If it's after 5, then it'll be between 8 and 9 the next morning, because nobody monitors this at night, but it's monitored between 8 and 5. And if somebody is monitoring chat, you will see a little thing that over here on a box that comes out on the right that says chat with us. And that's also monitored 8 to 5. except I'm the one monitoring it now, so I'm not signed into it since I'm talking to you all. So, but if you click on that, then you'll be in like live chat with somebody and you can get immediate answers from them. Book a study room is where you will pick, where you can just go to the front desk and tell them you want a study room, and hopefully if they're not all booked up, you'll get one. Or then there's a QR code on that you can scan at the front desk that will take you to this page, book a study room. If you want a study room, you click on book a space and you can see the rooms and I think if it's in red, that means somebody has it. So, and I think you can get information about what's in the room and you see how many people can be in the room. And actually, I guess they only book them up till midnight, although the library is open till 1 a.m. And it's kind of confusing because you clicked onto this by book a study room, but this is where also you book equipment. So if you click on book equipment, and you'll see we've got mainly, I think students will want these various types of cameras. And I think even from what I understand, even the digital cameras will record video as well. So I think all the cameras do video, and then there's other type of things you can book if you want to. But you get to that by clicking book a study room. This is one search. This will start with that and then come back and look at the rest of them. Does anyone have well, I'll put in a topic here. I'll just say driving and texting. If I just put driving, texting, it's going to assume I mean and in between them. So if you don't put any, if you just put a string of words without one of the Boolean operators between them, it's going to assume you mean and, unless you put those quotation marks around it. So I got 58,000 results. If I don't get any results, or if I get very, very few, the first thing I do is check my spelling, because unlike Google, the databases do not recognize close misspellings and give you results anyway. It will just say didn't find anything. So, but I got 58,000, so that's good to work with. But too many to look through all of them. So the way you filter your results or make your results smaller is over here on the left. If I wanted books, although I would imagine most of these are articles, I would look at resource type, and there are 334 books. If I click on the left of any of these, it will include the term or the item. If I click over here on the right, it will exclude it. But let's say I want peer-reviewed articles. So that's a little over 4,300. Oftentimes too, you're told only use recent things, don't use old things. So if I click on publication date, you can see this particular list goes back to 1982. And I don't know, I didn't even know they had texting back in 1982, but I'm going to change it to just the last 5 years. And I'm still down to over 2,000. So I could either, oftentimes people, when I'm working with them, they're like, I don't really know how to narrow down any more than this. And so you can keep in mind that the default sort is by relevance, which means even though I have no intention of looking at the titles of all 2,200 of these items, I could look through the first 20 or 30 and get a good idea, because the things at the top of the list are going to be more highly relevant to whatever search terms I put in. But if I come over here under subject, then these are the main subject areas in these particular articles. And let's say, I'll just say traffic safety. Looks good. So now I'm down to 169. Actually, when it starts getting below 200, that's where I at least think about looking through the list and just glancing at the titles to see, is anything like that? Is that like what I want? If you click on, you'll see this is the short record, which includes the basic citation information. If you click on the title, it will take you to the extended record, which will have an abstract. If it's a book, it will often, if it's a nonfiction book, it will often have the table of contents here. And it will have subject headings, which is kind of like Wikipedia, a good place to look for, to brainstorm for other ideas of terming what I'm talking about, just like risky driving or text messaging. And then it will, if it is available in full text, which now most articles you'll find here are, then there will be a link to the database that it can be found in. So if you click on that, it will, if all things are working properly, take you to the full text of that article. So that's one search. If you, maybe you want to look in a specific journal, you may not, or you may have an actual citation where you've read another article and you've looked at the references and it's this specific article that I want from this journal. You can click on journals and it opens this thing called browsing, and you put in the name of, let's say it's Journal of Counseling that we want. Well, there isn't one called Journal of Counseling, but let's say it's Journal of Counseling Psychology. So then you, like if you already know the citation, this is the most recent issue of that thing. But if you know, oh, well, it was in 2018 and it was issue 4, and then, then you can find the specific article that you're looking for. So remember, when you're looking for a specific journal, to click on journals. But if you're wanting a database, then if you click on databases, you get the A to Z list of the 342 databases. And just last week, it was 335. So we're getting more all the time. And you can, they'll put the new databases over here. So if you're really into research and you want to know what new things do we have, they'll be over here. You might be interested in PressReader or Flipster because they both include popular magazines. With Flipster, I think you can get like Time Magazine and People, and you can just read it on your iPad. And PressReader will have Dallas Morning News and other newspapers, the current editions. But you find the database that you want to use. For instance, Academic Search Ultimate. They have these, all of the databases are going to default to a basic search. So it's going to look like one search and just have one box here. because they figured that's easier for beginning researchers. However, you can go to advanced search and you'll have multiple ways of narrowing down your search from the beginning. You've got 3 search boxes, and you can even add as many as you want. You can do peer reviewed, you can specify the date range you want. And the other limitations here are going to vary from database to database. We have research guides, which are guides that myself and other librarians have created. You can look at all of them, and like, I don't know if y'all are using MLA or APA in your citations. Generally, APA will be education related fields as well as psychology. MLA will be literature and languages. And we have Chicago or Turabian and Chicago Manual of Style, which is like Turabian, that will be used by history. Those are the 3 main citation styles that we use. So, I mean, and you click in here and you'll get, these are just simple instructional things that we put together to help you. We have course reserves, which are, so if you'll be told by a specific instructor, what I want you to get, the book is on reserve in the library, and you can click on that and it'll identify what it is, and you'll go to the front desk to get it. Interlibrary loan, is useful if we can get anything, or we can get most everything. Even if we don't have it ourselves, we find another library that has it. If it's just an article, it's pretty quick to get because the other library will scan it and send to us. But if it's a book and you want the whole book, it will have to be delivered here physically through the mail, and that can take a week or 2. But if you click on interlibrary loan, you don't automatically have an account with interlibrary loan, so you have to create an account the first time you use it, and then just follow the directions for putting in about the book or the article that you want. And hours, everybody's always asking about when's the library open. So if you click on that, it will show you what the hours are. And then we have workshops. Fatima, one of the other librarians here, is doing one today at noon about browsing, the tool I just showed you about searching for journals or magazines. And then these are the other workshops that are coming up. And then finally, this is those of us that work here in the library. You can find any of us and click on, and then you'll get our email address and our office phone number, as well as the actual physical office. I think that's all I had prepared. And so now if there's any questions, I see there are 2 things in chat. If that was,
yeah.
We do have
Daniel
microphones.
was asked.
And we have microphones. In fact, I've got one checked out. That's what it looks like. So, okay. I mean, I think I'm using this headphone now, but well, there's all types of equipment like that can be checked out. And when you check out a camera, they like wipe it when you bring it back. So there's not any, I mean, you can do it yourself certainly, but they won't immediately turn around and check that out to another person until somebody goes through and makes sure anything is erased on it. That's the same thing with those. You know, we have a laptop kiosk right by the front desk, and there's one over in the student center. And I don't know whether they already have some in the dorms, but they've got more. I was told a few months ago there were going to be some there, and you just, you know, swipe your card and pull the laptop out, and it's charged up, and I think it's got like a double size battery on it. But if you want a cord for it, you come to the front desk and you check out the cord separately. And you have it checked out for 24 hours. And when you turn it, when you stick it back in there, that kiosk machine like erases, you know, everything about whatever it is you did, your history, and anything, any documents you might have saved on it are removed. So be sure you save anything on your own flash drive or whatever before you turn it in. Any other questions? We have Starbucks in the library too. And that's just been expanded. In fact, they took away our library classroom to make more seating for Starbucks. But I know the librarians I work with were happy with that because they prefer to just do instruction through Zoom anyway. But the Starbucks is pretty popular.
Well, I imagine if you're doing research at midnight, you need some coffee to help keep you awake.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody? We're good? Yes, no? Yes, everybody got thumbs up. I got, okay. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. I will see you all